Welcome everybody to On Point for one more week. I'm your host, Patria K.
And I'm Dennis Strong.
And we've got a lot to talk about. Let's recap the week. Big things for you this week, Dennis.
The biggest thing for me is the start of impeachment process, or Nancy Pelosi announcing that they're going to start the impeachment process for Donald Trump. And over 160 Democrats in the House now support it.
I don't know whether or not that's going to go far. I mean, they've been inching towards him since the actual election happened. It's been how many years now, and he's still in there and batting
but
strong.
The difference now is that he's on camera admitting that he actually did have some breach in terms of his talking to the Ukrainian president about investigating his political rival.
Well, we watch that and see how it plays out. The biggest thing for me certainly was what happened in our transport sector right here at home in Jamaica. One taxi driver dead, one JUTC bus driver dead. The system virtually crippled for an entire day. There's this issue of violence that we have. There's an issue of the inability to solve disputes. I mean, talk it out, don't fight it out, whatever happened to that. It all escalated because people had a dispute on the road about passengers.
But, I wasn't surprised when I heard it. I wasn't surprised about it. I've commented in the past that something like this is going to happen. We have very indisciplined behavior on the roads. And I think at some point in time, the road rage was going to converge with the violence that we have in the society. The problem that we have is that we've just let the indiscipline gone too far. Indiscipline, violence now is a way of life. The authorities have just ignored the thing for way too long.
Commendations, I think, have to be given to the folks at PSTEB who stepped in the gap as best they could on the morning of the strike of the JUTC bus drivers. They could have been seen on the road with their police buses, recognizing the vulnerability of our students who would have been at the bus stop waiting to go to school and picking them up and giving them a free ride to their schools. And I think we give them a beat up when they deserve it, but the commendations must also go to them as well.
As I've always said, I think that Kevin Blake was going to do a good job. I mean, maybe it's a good thing that we have him there now rather than the person who was there before. But Blake, someone I know very well for a long time, and I've always thought that he was going to do a good job at PSTEB.
Well, I absolutely think they did so on the morning of that strike. Any other matters at home that stood out for you this week?
Well, for me as a Jamaica College old boy, I mean, former Minister Roy Reid, his comments and the news that was carried that he was trying to get back his job at Jamaica
Standing
College.
his ground that he's not resigning.
I think the problem that we have with that sort of thing, I see it as a tactical decision on his part, but I've always lamented the fact that our labor laws need reforming, and that was a part of one of the things that should have been done under the IMF agreement, that we have failed. Both administrations have failed to deal with it, to reform the labor market, I think because of politics.
Well, old boys are very involved in what happens to their school. I know you love your Jamaica College, and you will have a say in what happens next. And it's going to be a battle in the courts.
The WhatsApp groups are very active.
Yes. Well, so much for what happened in the week. Let's talk about what's happening in the show. We're taking a look at climate change, more specifically climate crisis. Is that where we are? How is Jamaica being affected by the change in climate, and is it unsalvageable? Are we at the tipping point? We're talking about it on Point.
We'll look into that a bit more later, but first, let's take a look back at some of the top business stories of the week.
At number 5, the world's oldest travel company, Thomas Cook, collapsed last weekend, leaving hundreds of thousands of holiday makers stranded around the globe, including some in Jamaica. The company folded under a pile of debt after trying unsuccessfully to secure a rescue package from its lenders. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom's Civil Aviation Authority said Thomas Cook had now ceased trading, and the regulator and government would work together to bring the more than 150,000 British customers home over the next 2 weeks. And at number 4, Jamaica's tourism ministry was left reeling from the possible fallout locally from the Thomas Cook collapse. Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett said Jamaica is likely to lose about 8,000 visitors and $10 million in revenue from the travel company's closure. At number 3, the latest figures from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin show that Jamaica's import bill rose for the January to June 2019 period. Jamaica spent almost $3.3 billion in imports, an increase of 13.3% when compared to what was spent during the similar period in 2018. Your number 2 story this week is the chaos that ensued in the corporate area on Tuesday following strike action by Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC bus drivers. The drivers walked off the job after a colleague was murdered. This left thousands of passengers stranded. The police had to chip in to get some commuters to their destination. At number 1 this week, the government tabled the supplementary estimates of expenditure in Parliament on Tuesday, proposing to spend an additional $50.15 billion for the current fiscal year. This will increase the $803.24 billion budget approved in March this year to $853.39 billion. On the capital side, $5 billion in additional allocation has been made under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation for spending on roadwork under the Major Infrastructure Development Program.
When we come back, the climate crisis and Jamaica's fight to survive after the break.
Crow Jamaica Risk Management Services, RMS. Risk management has become indispensable to a company's business operations and management strategy in this complex environment nowadays. Crow Jamaica risk management experts help to turn every risk into an opportunity. We are experienced in providing customized solutions to manage risks and increase transparency and accountability of the companies. Our core services include internal audit, internal control review, corporate governance, corporate compliance, etc. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email people@crowjm.com, website www.crowjm.com.
Welcome back to On Point. Now, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, spoke earlier this week at the United Nations General Assembly about the climate crisis. He spoke about how it's affecting small island developing states like Jamaica. Take a listen to some of what he said.
Prime Minister Holness of Jamaica. Clearly, the islands are on the forefront of the feelings of the effects of climate change. Your voice needs to be heard in this room. The floor is yours.
Colleagues, friends, the global financing system requires immediate transformation to support action to tackle climate change. For the past year, Jamaica has been co-leading efforts to make this happen. The transformation must be science-based, technically appropriate, transparent, and supported by accurate and inclusive tracking methodologies. Here are some of the things that we have been looking at and advocating. The Paris Agreement, Capital Transition Agreement, risk scenario analysis tools already applied by 600 financial institutions worldwide could be adopted by private institutions and private investors to align their portfolios with the Paris Agreement. The Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures should be used to better inform investors on climate-related risks. Jamaica's effort to achieve fiscal discipline have not been without sacrifice. It is essential, therefore, that we have access to innovative, low-cost, and flexible financing windows to protect our hard-earned economic stability. We therefore welcome the commitment by multilateral development banks to further mobilize $40 billion of climate change investments from private sector investors annually by 2025. This includes important provision of technical assistance, use of guarantees, and other de-risking instruments. We also welcome their announcement of doubling adaptation financing to US $18 billion annually by 2025. I close by reiterating the concern of developing countries that the delivery mechanisms for climate finance are still fragmented and slow. The bottlenecks and gaps in the project investment value chain prevent climate finance from getting to where it is most needed. We are encouraged, however, by new and exciting developments, such as the Closing the Investment Gap Initiative and the Climate Investment Platform, which hold great promise and will expand to meet the investment and technical assistance needs of more developing countries. Colleagues, there is no silver bullet for climate finance challenges. However, by supporting and promoting existing and new initiatives, we will be taking action that the younger generation is demanding. Remember, they are watching.
All right, and joining us now to talk about the climate crisis and what Jamaica is doing to adapt to the changing times, we have none other than Senator Pernell Charles, who is the Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and Indy McClymont Lafayette, Communication Specialist for the Adaptation Program and Financing Mechanism for the Pilot Program for Climate Resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to On Point.
Welcome to the show, folks. Well, let's get right into the conversation because I want to start out with this climate crisis label.
Yes.
Would you describe it as such?
What we do know is that we have significant challenges. The word crisis itself is a word which you have to be careful because it really tugs on you emotionally and may cause persons to have the wrong response in getting scared instead of being prepared, though they should be scared. Mm-hmm. We, like many other small island developing states, are at incredible risk. We are vulnerable because of our geographical location. We are vulnerable because of our size and many other characteristics which cause us to have no other choice but to recognize the reality of the intense systems that are impacting us and to use every means possible to get all on board in preparing proactively to be able to not just respond, but to withstand the impacts. You've seen the unfortunate results of climate change and the impact across the Caribbean region.
But let me ask though, Indy. I mean, I totally agree with what the minister said, but based on what we're seeing globally and the new studies that have come out, aren't we in a crisis really? I mean, they say we just have a few more years before this thing is irreversible.
I would say what jumps out for me is the whole issue of urgency and the need for urgent action, especially for small island developing states like us. Because the reality is, unless the global community gets to certain targets, we are going to continue to feel the Dorians and the Marias that we have been having and not been able to withstand. So that is where the crisis comes in for us. We have to be very vocal internationally in asking for the 1.5 target to be met if we want to survive as small islands. So I would say, as small islands, yes, it is a crisis of survival.
And that's where our governments have a challenge. The urgency is required not only on our part in saying, look, we're being affected, but the urgency must be recognized by the bigger nation states, the global village, that we are the ones that we're seeing Hellshire disappear. We are the ones that are having the coral reefs disappear. We are the ones that are getting hit by the Marias and the Dorians. Yes. Are they seeing it as a matter of urgency?
No, I believe so. I think that you have several partners globally who recognize the importance. And our Prime Minister, as you rightly said, is right now at the UN General Assembly as one of the leaders in this discussion around climate financing, together with France and Qatar. We are representing the small island developing states. The response has been so far, I think, positive, but there's so much more that is needed. So there are some very specific targets and specific requests that are being submitted and made in relation to seeking more support, and not just financial support, because we are going to have to require our global partners to change their own behavior. We are the most affected, but perhaps the ones who contribute the least.
What do they do that harms us?
A lot of it goes down, I think, to industrialization and just practices which cause the greenhouse gases and other things which harm. And the world is connected. It's one big interconnected world. And so if you affect the planet to the west, those to the east will feel it.
So how then do you look at capitalist world with the billions of people and say, hey, my 3 million's over here and you're affecting me?
I mean, as you said, what do they do that harm us, right? Really and truly, if the US, China, India, which are the main emitters, change quite a few things in terms of energy consumption. Yes. That is a big thing, oil and phasing out oil, going more to green energy.
And renewables.
Right, those are some of the things that are priority, because the reality is small islands, the Caribbean, we only contribute 0.8% to global emissions. So if everybody did everything that we're supposed to mitigate and adapt, it's only 0.8%.
It's starting though, we have to recognize that. It's starting, because you ask what the response is. And I can tell you, I'm just coming from China 1 month ago. I was there. There is a lot of work to be done. But we must recognize that the improvements in terms of the introduction of renewable energy technology and targets that have been set for us to improve the energy efficiency, those are global targets.
But you have folks who are going to listen to us talk and say, we can talk about this academically all we want, but when you've got the head of perhaps one of the largest developing countries out there questioning whether or not climate change is real, what real action can you get out of the United States if the president doesn't even believe that this is a real thing?
There are various ways to interpret your understanding of a particular definition. Regardless of that, I always examine the practical realities. And I think that the United States, despite the varying understandings and conclusions that have been drawn, have to face the fact that there must be better use of energy. There is obvious impacts, whether you want to call it climate change or not. There are obvious impacts and consequences that arise from our actions. And like everyone else, we are going to either have to do it or be compelled.
But Minister, they're not doing it. And therefore the question in there is that based on the time, and I'll get down to the time again, the time that they say is irreversible, and the attitudes that are out there, do we have enough time to save the earth? That's fundamentally what it comes down to,
Well, according to some of the scientific reports coming out of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, there's what's called a tipping point.
Right.
And if I'm correct, I think it's over a 20-year span, but that gap they're saying is closing.
But they said it's another 10 or 12 years to go.
Right, are melting more quickly. But I think, so yes, the time window is narrowing if we don't really get serious now. And the case of the US is a special one, because what we have to note is that the US has not gotten out of the Paris Agreement yet. despite what Trump says, the way Obama
They're still
did
signatories.
they could not come out so easily. So it's still effective until the end of his term. What he has done is cut funding for some climate action.
Which makes a difference.
Yes, it does, because for the international target, one of the key targets they wanted to reach for 2020 was 100 billion, so that they could split that to
100
help.
billion
Yes.
dollars?
Yes.
Yes.
Split that to help cover both mitigation measures internationally as well as adaptation, which is where we as small islands would get more access to funds to adjust. So now they haven't met that 100 billion target. So I get, and so that does raise the question.
So what's the implication of not meeting that $100 billion target? That is really
It's
close.
two things. They're behind on the target, and in terms of the global emission in Paris, when the agreement was signed, they were saying working towards 3% reduction. The Caribbean islands want 1.5. The reality, the scientist says, is that we're closer to 4. So the priority is still
So
a bit
therefore,
far behind.
what is the implication? So for the man on the street, when you're talking to him, what is going to happen to
If you
him?
don't take care of your woman, she'll leave you.
Yes.
If you don't take care of the planet, it will leave us. The planet is a living creature.
And the
And
small
it's all
islands,
interconnected.
the small
and we as
islands,
humans will be removed. If
we
don't
will
take care
go
of it.
first.
It's simple.
We
If
will go first.
it only takes a trip to Hellshire for you to
Of
feel in a real way.
Have you look back on your pictures from 20 years ago.
Forget the
And
pictures.
you see, no, but you,
Your
but you
own
have to
eyes.
juxtapose it.
If in 6 months you
Yeah.
go there and you can visit, there is no sand at Hellshire anymore.
But
There
a lot
is
of,
no
a lot of
sand.
that, a lot of that is also for us to do. So I understand the necessity for our partners who are perhaps the main contributors to be compelled to help in our building up of resilience, because that is what is required. We don't want to be responding. We need to build up and adapt and create the capacity to be able to withstand the impact. Now, but we have a lot more to do here as well. And that comes down to
there's a positive story about some fishermen on somewhere along the coast who
Discovery
actually
and the coral reef.
rebuilt the coral reefs.
Oh, that's
and we
Discovery Bay.
yes, we have a number of those. We have a number of those across the country, and
White
the program we're
River.
involved in.
A part of our project, we provided funding for White River Fishermen's Association, and they planted 1,000 pieces of coral, baby corals, and they are reforesting the reef. It's a fantastic project. But that's,
Drop in the bucket.
yes.
But it's important. I mean, I don't want, because a lot of the persons I speak to take the stance of, well, what I'm going to do won't make a difference. It will. And we must create that narrative and push that sentiment. Every nickel, every drop in that bucket will count, okay? But it still means that we have to have massive policies and we have to have a very clear understanding as to where we're going to go with the planet.
I want to just put something on the table. I was a part of the team that went to the Conference of the Parties last year. And what I know the Climate Change Division has been doing, it's twofold. It's encouraging us to do all that we can to adapt, because internationally they ask everybody to do that. But there's one issue that I know that they are pushing for, which is called loss and damage. And it is where countries like the Bahamas, who you put in everything and try to adapt, but then there's only so much preparation you can do. A Dorian comes and wipes you out. Putting in some funding there for those countries to help them come back, build
Who would
back.
contribute to that, Will?
Everybody, mostly the developed countries.
But even nationally, we're trying to do that now. Because, part of our discussions here are to ensure that we have funds that are earmarked to be able to respond to that kind of disaster.
People have been having issue with our contributions to the CRIF fund, saying we keep pouring this money in the fund, but the kind of devastation that's required for you to draw down on those funds, we haven't been able to. So flooding has cost us a lot. Storms have cost us a lot. Tropical depressions have cost us a lot. But the trigger to draw down on those funds, you need a Dorian to happen. And so it's a wasted expense for Jamaica. What do you say to that?
But I'm saying, who knows when we'll get a Dorian, so you cannot not be a part of something like that. But I also know it's a what?
A waste of money for us to be doing that. Because
I think they are looking at adjusting the parameters.
We could be safe. Yeah, well, they have to.
Yeah, I think they are looking at that. The 1.5 report, which Professor Michael Taylor did, a lot of research is coming out, so we have to be guided by the science. So I think CRIF is looking at how they can rework.
But let me ask you though, Indy. In order for us to understand and for the viewers to understand the impact of this thing, give me a timeline and unfold. Tell me how things unfold. We know about movies like The Day After.
You want to hear doom and gloom by when? When are we all gone?
Because
when is it over?
When should I kiss my mother?
This is the urgency we're talking about, and we have to put it in cold reality for people.
I don't know that you can give any specific timelines, but
one thing that we can take into consideration is what's called climate departure, and they're still doing research on this. But a study came out a few years ago which indicated that Kingston will be one of the first cities in the Caribbean to experience climate departure, which means that each year we get successively hotter. So every year, if the temperature was 10 degrees, next year it will be 11, and it keeps climbing.
Yeah.
And after a certain point, it's not gonna go back to normal. So sometimes we say, oh, it going, no. So it ties in with the tipping point that maybe after 10, 12 years, this is the new reality.
We keep pointing fingers at first world, at developed nation states, and saying you do and it affects us. But we can't completely absolve ourselves of the responsibility that we play, of the part that we have played in the degradation of climate.
Yes.
What's the role that we have played, and what behavior do we need to change to make things better for ourselves?
It's one planet, yeah? And, it doesn't take too much for you to even look on how much garbage, Dennis, you did with it, how much garbage we have in the wrong places in our country. We have to have more than just enforcement, more than just legislation. There has to come a point where we all appreciate the requirement to change our behavior, or else.
Indeed.
As much as we sometimes cross Jamaica, I'll say that we have been doing a lot to position ourselves to adapt. Right now, we are the only Caribbean country that has 4 projects under the pilot program for climate resilience. And what they are doing is targeting both policy and vulnerable sectors to help us to build resilience. So for example, the agricultural sector, working with farmers to get them to adopt more climate resilient practices. So if you always plant breadfruit or banana, when hurricane to come and everything gone, put in pineapple, sweet potato.
But you want pineapple every day, but
no.
you want the breadfruit.
But be open to experimenting to crops that are more resilient. If we have St. Elizabeth, the drought, the farmers dying, but how do they adapt? What are some of the things they can plant that don't need as much water? The science, so you is doing some research with the farmers to help them to transition.
Hold the thoughts. I want to hear about those 3 other pillars, and then after that I'm going to tackle you from the policy perspective, because you have a responsibility for water and we have a water crisis. We'll talk about it after the break.
I'm 36. I'm a husband, a manager, and still very good looking. In 2 hours, I have the most important meeting of my life. But first, it's time to play. The new Suzuki Vitara.
Welcome back to On Point, viewers. We're talking extreme climate change right here on the show. We have Senator Pernell Charles and also Indy McClymont. And just before the break, you were mentioning the adaptation pilot program that you are working on. There are 4 pillars. One is taking a look at the re-education of the farmers and getting their own crops a little bit more hearty, having them think about mitigation measures and adaptation. What else is happening there?
So the PPCR projects, one looks at climate data collection that is run from the Planning Institute to ensure that we can be predicting what's coming, updating our equipment. We're looking at the policy level, working on the climate change policy and mainstreaming climate change throughout government and with partners. My project in particular has been working with providing financing for climate adaptation at the community and ground level. So we have given over 115 grants, and the JN, working in partnership with JN, we are offering climate smart loans for individuals and companies to adapt to climate change.
With what? When I get, what do I need money to do in my company or in my
Look at the job we're having now. I mean, water security. Go to your house, get a black tank, so you know that when NWC not cutting it, you at least have 2 weeks of water or whatever time frame. So something as simple as that, you can access the 5 million to do something.
But that water
like
is not water you can drink though. It's water you can use like in your lawn.
Well, part of what technically you can get purification pumps and so on to put everything in so that it's fine to drink.
But Minister, talk about that. What are some of the policy things we're pushing now? Because you spoke about the garbage thing, right? But we still have a piece of legislation in the Parliament that's supposed to up the fines for people who dispose of garbage illegally for years now, right? We don't see any tax incentives, for example, coming on. What are some of the things that the government is thinking of? Because I know it's a big concern for the government.
Well, I tell you, in general terms, I know that in terms of the specific to climate change, there is a framework that is being developed to ensure that there is the interconnectivity between all of the ministries and agencies, and to highlight the importance of all of these ministries having sustainable development at the forefront of their activities.
See a lot of work from Minister Williams trying to change out the dependence on fossil fuels, etc. Yes,
definitely. So it's energy efficiency, lowering the greenhouse gas emissions, ensuring that we introduce the renewable energy technology, ensuring that we have rainwater harvesting that's coming from climate change, but also in the water sector policy, and just ensuring that all of the aspects of development are aligned. So you'll notice that our, what we call Vision 2030, our national development goals are more than 90% aligned to Action 2030, which is what defines the sustainable development goals for the planet.
And yet, Minister, there's somebody who is hearing the fancy talk and saying, I still can't flush my toilet right now. Yeah. Somebody who is looking out their window and hearing that the legislation has been passed, that apartment buildings can now go higher than they used to be able to go before. And you still can't get water on the ground floor, let alone on the 8th floor of an apartment building. And they think, what are you saying?
And right now, Patricia, seeing a lot of rainfall and I still can't.
And let me tell you, I sit here having inherited a system which is completely deficient, but I have the responsibility to solve it. And so I know that I take the blows. And I understand the frustration because I live here. We are all in it together. I've had to scoop up close to the wall too. But things are getting better.
How?
We have already started. We're working also with the within the ambit of the whole sustainable development and climate change issues to ensure that we do what is necessary to diversify our system, to put in place the investment in our upgrade of the water transmission systems, to build out better maintenance protocols so that you don't have one part going bad, and then you have 8 months delay and 200 people not getting water.
And I hear you, Minister, but there are people who are going to say we are being as capitalist as the first world folks, because if we are going to pass legislation for example, the high rises, the allowing of the increase of the density of the apartment buildings, and say put on 4 more floors,
no, but
and not fix the water issue first.
But while we
it's cart
do
before the horse.
While we do so, because remember, development it's including several elements. One of the most important, the core of it to me, is water. Now, while we increase the amount of infrastructure across a corporate area and other places, we are also looking on those regulations and legislation that's going to make it mandatory that you have the necessary storage capacity, that you have the right size pipes, that you're able to provide the water to all of the persons in your complex.
So the onus will be on the developer?
On the developer. We also, as government, have a lot of work to do. And so you'd have seen, and you'd have heard rather, a number of announcements that are short-term, medium-term, long-term. In the short term, we unfortunately have to rely on the trucking. So we have to procure more trucks to be able to do so, because it doesn't matter how much money you put to it. If you can't get it into a truck, sanitized, and to the person, it doesn't make sense.
But Minister, isn't one of the issues that we have, though, that we come up with all these things, and over the years, it has been a history of Jamaica. You come up with all these laws and regulations, and there's no enforceability. We can't even lock off.
Which is what I said earlier.
Obey the night noise abatement act.
Which is why my stance is you must have the law, because it is important to have a framework for somebody to, even if not for the citizen here, for an investor to be able to project and to put in place in their examination of the country, what is this country about? What are the understandings within which we can execute our function, our business? So it's important. But more important, and I said it earlier, is to make sure that we are implementing the initiatives and we are stimulating our citizens from a very, very early age to become standard bearers. This is your country, and so you must know how to harvest, how to conserve, how to consume, how to protect. But it can't all be on the citizens. It has to be a partnership. It has to be a combination of things, including the upgrades, including the change of attitude, including the management of NWC and other agencies.
And so I still want to stay on the role of the government, because we're talking about cracking old asbestos pipe network across the country, that with all the development we're doing with roadworks, we're doing a disservice to the water network. Are we willing to look at funding models similar to the model we perhaps used to build out highways and do the road network? Are we open? Are our international partners open to refurbishing the water network with that same kind of model?
Well, we should be pleased to know that Prime Minister Holness actually ensured that the new roadwork that's taking place was also coupled with the necessary repair of those pipelines. That is actually one of the reasons why we've had so much deficiency in terms of water getting to all of the consumers, because we've been doing work on the pipes. But when that phase passes, we're going to see the improvements. So we've at least come to a place where we understand the importance of the unison between road work and pipeline work, so that we reduce the waste and increase the efficiency. Now, to the other part, yes, right now we have evaluated already the cost to truly comprehensively upgrade our system, and it is said to be $3.5 billion US just for our water sector.
Throughout the country?
Throughout the country. I mean, we need 60 million gallons per day for the corporate area, 188 million gallons across the country. And for instance, one water treatment plant, which we're intending to do, which is at the final negotiation stages now for Rio Cobra content, costs 60 million US. To fix the pipelines from 6 miles going up, another 60 million US. So you get an idea of the intensity of the investment that is required. we are examining a number of options to define exactly what is the best approach to find the money, because it all comes down to us requiring a complete, comprehensive change.
Because the longer we take, there is waste. Mark Barnett and his team from the NWC will tell you that so many gallons of the water
I can tell
that we
exactly
actually collect is going to waste.
Of what we produce,
coming to you, Indy.
we have what we call the non-revenue water.
Right.
And of what we produce nationally, they estimate that almost up to 70% is lost. In the corporate area, where we have high population density, pardon?
Hasn't it been reduced from 70%?
In the corporate area, due to this project which has been instituted in its 4th year now, partnership with Maya Jamaica, they've been able to reduce the corporate area from 63 now to 36%, a magnificent reduction. And so, you know, we'll see more water being available to the system, but much more is needed. Much more is needed.
And you wanted to say?
Yes, I wanted to make the point of policy, and we spoke about the gap between enforcement and what is there. But critically too, if we're gonna get funds internationally for some of the actions that we want, we do have to ensure that the policies are there and meeting the needs. And so there are quite a few when it comes to climate change that we're in the process of looking at. One of the things that the adaptation program is doing is a national spatial plan, which ensures that Jamaica's planning, it sort of merges with Vision 2030, but in a more detailed way. So looking at, okay, we have so many squatters across the island, and if that population continues to grow, how are we going to deal with that, with climate risk? Plenty of them squat on the river, and therefore when it floods, we hear how much drown. So how are we mapping that? And we're using the technology, we put in some online portals so we can sort of map some of these things, so we see 10, 15 years, where do we need to be, and we backtrack and say, okay, we need money for this because this is where we're heading.
But Minister, that's another problem, you know. The squatting is a serious problem. You can't police the communities, you can't collect garbage in the communities because the squatting community is just not organized.
I'm going to commit to coming back another time to talk to you about it, because we have a squatting policy.
Yeah, but Minister, a part of the problem with the squatting, you know, is that over the years, politicians have encouraged people to squat.
Name one.
So that they can have votes in the areas.
You tell me who is encouraging them.
And you will deal with them.
I'm in charge of it. I will deal with them.
You deal with them.
Tell me who. But the reality is that you're completely correct.
Yeah.
It causes us to have a dysfunctional system, and it impacts more the generations that grow up and grow into that area. It's connected to security issues, connected to environmental issues, and most importantly, connected to a psyche.
Yeah.
Just how you see yourself. So it's something which, from the perspective of the housing section of my portfolio, we're taking very seriously. I'd have to come back. There's a lot about it in terms of social housing and squatting, and what we're doing now is a national survey, so we can firstly get a full understanding of where we are. You're going to need another half an hour for that.
I still have questions about water. There was the idea at what point floated about making the NWC a privatized entity, and that the level of delivery, of service delivery, the urgency to a commitment to quality might be maintained if the NWC was privatized. Is that still on the table as we look towards the rationalization, and is that in the short order?
It is. I'll say that openly. I am willing to look on any option that's going to allow me as a minister to be able to provide better service for the people of Jamaica.
Does anybody want to buy the NWC?
Let's discuss that. I'll discuss that with the several international partners that are examining it right now. But certainly, we'll have to find a way. We'll find a solution. The other option is not available. The option of just simply leaving it as is untenable. We have a clear mandate, which is to not repeat mistakes. And in doing so, we have to look at a different structure. And that's something which is now actually being designed and finalized in a cabinet submission, which should be before us very soon for us to really examine it in further intricate detail.
Interesting experience from the University Mona campus. We had the past principal on, and he told of digging their own well.
Yes.
Digging their own well and solving a water shortage issue that they had for decades on that campus. Are we looking to those kinds of solutions? Because the catchment facilities right now, even with the rain, most of the major ones, all of the major ones are under 50% of capacity, even with the rains. And so do we look at things like looking at underground waters, building new catchment facilities? We talk about doing new things. What are those new things?
Well, firstly, there are a number of activities that are being now explored and that have already commenced through the NWC in the rural water. We have rainwater harvesting in schools and other institutions. We have the rehabilitation of several catchment tanks across the country, the rehabilitation and institution of several minor water supplies, particularly in rural areas. We are looking to build out and rehabilitate around 10 or 11 wells in the corporate area, which should give us an additional 10 million gallons per day to meet the demand of the 60, which is required. We're looking at the Rio Cobra content to bring abstract of 15 million gallons daily from there.
How do people live here and the water is on the other end of the island? Have we thought through how that works?
How we developed our countries in an inverse way. So we have a lot of our resources on the north, but we settled on the south. And so we do not have a shortage of water. What we have is a system that is not diversified enough to tap into all of our sources of water. And it's understandable because of the cost. For instance, we hear people talk about desalination all the time. Minister, why not desalination? Why not desalination? The cost. NWC is perhaps the biggest JPS customer. If you were to add desalination to that, in a time and within the context of us having pipes that are leaking 70%, that would mean you have the abstraction of more expensive water, you're losing more expensive water, and the consumer will have a doubled or tripled rate.
I see Indy making notes, which means she has a point that she wants to make.
No, I'm thinking of quite a few of the things when you're looking at the access with the water. And I'm also looking at where a lot of our infrastructure is on the coast. 70% of our developments are on the coast. So in our strategies and our thinking, we have to look at how we develop. You were raising the point about the inverse development. Coastal sea level rise means that our hotels and beaches are at great risk of going. Our airport, we rehabilitated Norman Manley. However, it's still a great risk, and so we have to rethink quite a few things in going forward if we really are serious about adapting.
But isn't it policy issues though? Because you think about airport. No, it is not sensible to put an airport. But the whole how we have developed our country is really a lack of policy and enforcement and all that.
Have we reached the tipping point there? And that's the final question
not
to
just
you.
Policy. There is a clear. You can challenge many of the decisions made in the past. Planning and coordination could have been much better. And again, the reality is we've inherited a system which is woefully deficient. Right. But that's the past. How are we going to change it? We're responsible for the solutions. And I personally am listening to India and I'm thinking water is the core of climate change issues. And so I know that the adaptation program has a lot of funding. And we need to put some of that funding towards the water sector. And there's something which I've spoken to Una May about as well. Because if we define our way forward by planning, not just for tomorrow, but for 100 years, like the Chinese, then we are going to reap the benefit of better and smarter decisions.
Senator, we're going to hold you to that. You inherited a bad system, but we're going to hold you to making bad better.
And it has been improved.
Indeed.
It has been improved. Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you very much.
We take a break, folks. When we come back, so much more on point.
Do you want more experience from your SUV? Introducing the 2020 Nissan X-Trail with leading-edge technology, intelligent ride and chassis control, a round view monitor, and hill start assist for confidence behind the wheel. Plus, auto headlights and panoramic sunroof. Drive the SUV with more experience. The Nissan X-Trail, available today at Fidelity Motors.
Welcome back to On Point, folks. Things have changed a lot for the Earth over the last 100 years, and a lot of that change has been because of our own changing lifestyles. How much has the planet been affected by our doing? Take a look at the numbers.
In the year 1900, the total global emissions of carbon dioxide from burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, agriculture, and other human activities was 1.957 billion tons. By 2018, that figure ballooned to 36.831 billion tons. China was responsible for 27% of global carbon dioxide output in 2018, while the United States of America accounted for 15%. Sea level has risen 4 to 10 inches over the last 100 years, mainly because water expands when heated. The melting of glaciers, which has occurred worldwide over the last century, also contributes to the rise. June 2019 was the hottest June on record for the globe, and Kingston recorded its highest temperature ever when the thermometers registered 39.1 degrees Celsius.
And our On Point team hit the streets and asked, what are you willing to personally give up to fight climate change?
One of the things I try my best to cut back on is, for example, the use of plastic. I kind of like the idea of the government bringing across by not having us, each time you go to the supermarket, you get a set of scandal bag. But instead you bring your own bag. That's a good method. As I said, I like to cut down on electricity. I don't use that much because I don't see the nature going solar. So until then, we have to use gas oil, and for that, you have to cut down on electricity.
Well, I think using less electricity, less energy. Yes, personally, that's what I think I would be willing to give up.
Personally, I would give up using less electricity because that's oil conservation. I recycle, so that's also something that helps with climate change. And in addition to that, the government had imposed a scandal bag. That's a very good move, to be honest. I think that it is effective, as we can plainly see. So we as individuals need to help out the government in reducing climate change.
As it relates to climate change, I don't believe that I do anything that contributes negatively to climate change. People in our community, though, I'm sure, do some things like burning garbage. So what we could do is probably encourage persons more to put their garbage away. Call National Solid Waste Management, because they do collect if you give them a call. So that's something that could be done. So awareness, I guess, or education about it.
Deforestation for me. I do a lot of that because I want a better view. So instead of cutting down a limb or so the tree affect, I just take out everything. So I guess I gotta stop. I'm prune. Instead of deforestation, I guess I gotta prune now.
For me, climate change has a lot to do with pollution and things like that. So if we could use a lot more biodegradable products, get some help with the drainage. I mean, look at what's happening behind you. But of course, outside of that, using more biodegradable products, using things that are more eco-friendly. So like our fuel, less emissions, things like that.
I am willing to give up driving to work. Presently, I take the express bus to work. So, that basically I'm using less gas.
In order to minimize my negative effect on the environment, I'll reduce my consumption of water. So basically, rather than use the hose to wash the car, use a bucket.
Doggin Global Introduction. Doggin Global is an integrated multidisciplinary professional service firm. We are integrated as one firm and provide several professional services, including audit, accounting, tax, IT, risk, HR, performance, M&A, corporate recovery, and other advisory services. The firm is organized in several professional service units, which includes Doggin Auditors, Doggin Advisors, Doggin Legal, Doggin Finance, Doggin HR Solutions, Doggin Tech Solutions, Doggin Media, Doggin Corporate Secretarial. If you are interested in any of our services, please contact us for a free quote. Email info@doggin.global. Website doggin.global.
But then it's what a discussion. Sometimes you have this helpless feeling as a small island developing state. So much of what happens to us happens not because of us. And so you feel a little helpless sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest challenge, I think, facing the globe right now, climate change. But personally, my view is that I don't think that we're going to be able to get away from that tipping point. No, I mean, I'm just being practical. I mean, we've been distracted by Brexit, by what's happening with Russia and their ambitions, by what's happening in the US with politics. All of these distractions are happening at a time when the climate change argument is getting critical.
So I have faith. I recall from as young as when I was in primary school, we started to have this conversation about the hole in the ozone layer. And I thought I would have been a melted puddle in the corner somewhere because the hole in the ozone layer was getting bigger. But as a world, we collectively got together and we made the decision that we're going to reverse that crisis at the time. And so the aerosols stopped and the hole in the ozone layer got smaller. I have the kind of faith that people will get to a place.
But it has not changed the situation as is.
Well, that particular crisis at the time has been reversed. I think I'm having faith in humanity that we'll get to a place where we recognize the damage, where the bigger nation states, where the Americas and the Chinas and the Englands of this world and the Indias of this world will recognize the damage that they're causing and do something.
Well, with the political leadership that we have now globally, I'm hoping that it will change, because it really will not impact us significantly, but our children or our grandchildren are really the ones that are going to be impacted.
We have a duty to them.
I mean, we're having Category 5 hurricanes regularly now.
And you know what? When you look at the bands of the hurricanes, yes? Some of the strength hurricanes that we've seen passing through the Caribbean, if there were a band 6 and 7, we actually would see that. But I don't think any of the folks, the Saffir-Simpson scale person who put it together, never ever imagined that kind of intensity. One of the things that we have to do, though, is we have to shout loudly. Because out of the goodness of their hearts, these bigger nation states aren't going to change behavior. I mean, you know, when you have that little annoying small dog that barks and barks and barks incessantly until it gets on your nerves, we have to be that little small annoying dog. Oi, hopefully not. Gotta say thanks to the folks who made the show happen, and the conversation has to continue outside of this set. Have to say thanks to the hardworking crew that I see that you don't. Thanks also to you, the viewers, for tuning in every week. I'm Patria K.
And I'm Dennis Strong.
See you next week.
On Point was brought to you by Crow Jamaica.
I'm Butch Hendrickson. You're watching BATV, serious about business.
Jamaica is well on its way to becoming a digital society by the year 2030. That's right. Through agencies such as the Companies Office of Jamaica's new electronic business registration form, we're closer to becoming the place of choice to live, work, raise families and do business. We'll tell you how you may access those and other services within the next half hour. I'm Adrian Atkinson and you're watching Jamaica Magazine, so stay tuned. Prime Minister Andrew Holness in August launched the Companies Office of Jamaica's electronic business registration form. Here to tell us more about this online platform is CEO Mrs. Judith Ramlogan.
Welcome to Get the Facts, a program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm your host, Anthros Campbell. The electronic business registration form was launched by the Companies Office of Jamaica, the COJ, on August 7 this year. This online platform seeks to replace the manual paper registration form and simplify the process of doing business. To speak more on this is the Chief Executive Officer of the COJ, Judith Ramlogan. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right, so you have a new business form, yes, registration form. Tell us, what was it like before? Tell us about the history of doing business with the COJ before this form.
Okay, the electronic business registration form is just a way of bringing the business registration form, or as most people know it, the super form, online. So before the super form, we implemented the super form, or we launched the super form in 2014. Before the super form, a company or a business, somebody who wanted to register a business name would come to COJ, register that company or business name, get a certificate, a registration certificate, which that person would now take to the tax office to get a taxpayer registration number, to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to register, to get an NIS number, and also take it to NHT and to HART to be registered.
Yes.
That could take about 7 days, 7 other days. So when you are incorporated or you're registered, it would take 7 other days or 7 more days for you to be able to start a business.
Yes. So that posed significant challenges. But you had addressed that going to the different places.
Right. With the business registration form.
With this form.
Right. The super form.
The super form,
right.
yes.
So what we have done is converted the manual super form into an electronic form. So that is what the electronic business registration form is about.
So tell me about this prior system. How did it impact operations and business and so on, apart from you having to wait 7 days?
Well, the time is money. So what it would mean is that company or a business person could not start operations until he visited all those other business startup agencies.
Right. And the visit would take just the one day you go to wherever would solve
sometimes it could take a day. Sometimes it, depending on whether you met all the requirements at the first go, maybe you'd have to go back to those agencies.
Yes. But tell me now, so moving into this new system, tell us, what are some of the things you had to do? Did you have to train? Tell us about that.
Well, we had to develop a form, right? We had to develop a form, and we learned that, the manual form, it's not possible to just convert it to an electronic form. So we had to develop the form. We had to get developers IT developers to develop the form. We had to get eGov Jamaica Limited to help us with that, right? So it was a long, engaged process. We had to convert our legal rules to electronic rules, right? So, it was a long and involved process, and it took longer than we thought it would. Was more complex, but we are at the point now where we have this electronic form.
Okay, great. And what about persons within your own organization as it relates to how they would treat with customers?
Well, the thing though is that the electronic form is really just about how the form gets into our automated registration system. So the internal staff didn't really need much training because it's the same information that they're receiving. It's just a comparison. You know, you either walk in and present us with the form, or you send it to us by electronically.
Yes, yes.
So when it comes into our internal system, it's the same process.
Right. What kind of numbers are you talking about as it relates to the people coming each day?
Well, the thing is that we in the last year we've registered more than, I would say, 10,000 business names. Right now, most of those come, they walk in, right? But in the last year, we have registered 1,124 business names online, right? Yes. The form was developed in 2 stages. So since last year, you could register a business name online, but just since this year, you can register a company. So to date, we have only seen 2 companies being registered online. Yes. And part of the reason is that we have
How many?
Two, because we have not publicized.
Yes.
We're about to embark on a major public education campaign about registering online. Right. But the business names, persons have been using that system, and we have a kiosk at COJ, so we invite persons to come and use that kiosk to register their business names.
So tell us about the difference between the business name and the companies. Yes.
I get that question all the time. A business name is just a name that you use to other than your first and your last name, right? So if I was just say Judith Ramlogan, attorney at law, I wouldn't have to register a business name. But if I said Judith Ramlogan and Partners or Judith Ramlogan and Company, I have to register that business name. Now, it's me, right? So Judith Ramlogan and Company is Judith Ramlogan. So there's no separate personality. Whatever liabilities I might incur, or the business might incur, those are my liabilities, right? With a company is a separate legal personality. So if I decide to form a company, and I can form a one-man company, if I decide to do that, Judith Ramlogan Limited, right? What it means is that any liabilities incurred by the company, those are for the company. Any assets that I have as Judith Ramlogan can't be touched. So that's the difference.
So we take a break now. We come back with more information on the Companies Office of Jamaica. Please stay with us.
Mosquitoes can spread diseases such as dengue fever. Protect yourself from mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent that contains DEET. Sleep under a mosquito net, close windows before dark, open windows and doors during fogging, cover your body as much as possible, and wear light-colored clothing. Protect yourself from dengue and other mosquito-borne diseases. Do your part to prevent mosquito breeding in your surroundings. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back to Get the Facts with the Chief Executive Officer of the Companies Office of Jamaica, Judith Ramlogan. Now we're talking about the electronic business registration form, which is a new feature, and that's part of the whole modernization of the COJ. Right. Tell us a little bit more about what else is happening at the COJ.
Right. Well, the Companies Office has been an executive agency since 1999, and we have had our same organizational structure since that time. We have changed mandates several times, but our organizational structure is still the same. And so a strategic review of our operations was done, I think 3 years ago. And one of the main recommendations was that we do a business process reengineering so that we could have a better fit between our organization and our mandate. So the Strategic Public Sector Modernization Project out of the Ministry of Finance is assisting us with some funding from the World Bank to undertake this business process reengineering. Right. So that is a major thing that we'll be a major project that we'll be embarking on in the next financial year.
Right. Any specific area that you're targeting?
Well, we're targeting all areas. So it's operations, it's our ICT, it's our legislation, because all of those things work to make us what we are. So we are targeting. It is a major endeavor that we'll be embarking on.
Right. Could we look at some of the, going back to the the electronic form,
Yes.
some of the features of the form, and have you included anything that you never had before? And tell us about how people can go online and access.
Well, okay, so the form is accessed on the COG's website, which
Yeah.
is www.orcjamaica.com. The thing is that this is a major change for us, because you remember people would have to walk in. There's nowhere to access our services except walking into one of our 2 offices. We have an office in Montego Bay and we have one in Kingston. Now, this is a major change, because remember, before, anybody wanting to register would have to come into one of our 2 offices or send an agent, right? Now, anybody can do it from anywhere in the world. You can go online and register your company or your business name.
Yes.
Right. So one of the features is that you have to get a subscriber login, right? So you go online and you get that subscriber login. We will approve you will get an email notification saying that this is your login and you have been accepted. Then you go and you would go now to reserve, to get name approval, because you can't register a name without getting it approved.
Okay.
We have given you a 2-day free name reservation. So if you could go online, you say, I would want to this is the name I'm proposing. And we will, within 2 days, we will respond to you and say, this name is acceptable. And we will, if you want a 2 days reservation, because, sometimes it takes time to gather all your information,
Yes.
because you might have to upload documents and such. So we'll give you a two-day reservation. Before the expiration of that 2-day reservation, you go back to the business registration portal and you complete the online form that's there. And after that, you complete. In order to submit, though, you need to sign the document. There's an electronic signature that you need to do, right? You need to upload any documents that we will require, because we will require a government-issued ID. We will require proof of address, of your home address. And if there are any certifications, because sometimes if you use a particular word, like legal or medical, you have to show that you are certified to practice in those areas. So you upload all of that information. If you're not Jamaican, you'll have to prove nationality. You'll upload that as well.
It sounds like a lot of information you need to get before.
It's a lot. Yes, you need to gather all your information.
So it makes sense if you're watching this program to get these documents before you actually go online, so it will save you some time.
Yes.
Yes.
Although there is a facility that you can save the document and go back to it.
Yes.
But it's not a long window.
Yes,
So you really should gather all the
Yes.
information.
Yes.
And then you upload all that information, and in 2 days, we will send you a notification to say that your company or your business name has been registered.
Yes.
The reason why it takes so long at this time is that we have to look at each name that is proposed. But we are working on what we call a name search algorithm that will help us to automatically approve most names.
Great. Good. So tell me about, as we wrap, tell me about your major, remind us of your mandate.
The Companies Office mandate is really to administer the Companies Act and the Registration of Business Names Act. So what it means that we're responsible for registration and regulation of those 2 types of entities. We are also responsible, of course, because we are a registry, so people file documents with us.
Yes.
Right? So we have a large store of information and we are responsible for managing that. And I just want persons to know that you can search our databases, because there's not much information at the Companies Office that is private. All of it is public. We charge you fees to search, but they're manageable. You can search. So you have to be a subscriber to our website. right? First, I should say, though, that if you wanted to search to see whether a name is available or a company has been registered, you can do that free of cost. But if you are going to be doing a detailed search, like you want to know who are the shareholders or who are the directors of a company, then we will charge you. Okay. There's a subscription fee, and then every page you search, I think is $50 that we charge for that. You do your own printing, so there's no charge for that. Okay. I also want to mention that we are responsible for administering the National Security Interest in Personal Property database. Yes. Right? So and on that database, or on that registry, what happens is that secured creditors register notices of any interest that they have taken in personal property. So everything other than mortgages, those notices come to the NSIP registry.
Yes, right. Okay, I would like to remind you that you can register your company or business name online. You don't need to walk into the COJ's offices. You can do that online.
And if you need any help, call us. We can help you. We can hold your hand.
What are your numbers?
Well, the number that I would tell you, COJ numbers 908-441-9223. But our IT line is 920-1990.
Thank you so much. This has been Get the Facts with our guest Judith Rum-Logan, Chief Executive Officer of the Companies Office of Jamaica. To watch this program again, log on to our social media handle YouTube/WatchJIS and stay connected via our website at jis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Anthros Campbell. Take care.
Each time you're not paying full attention to the road environment, the greater your chances of getting in a crash like that. Plan routes to avoid focusing on GPS systems, prevent children from roaming in motor vehicles, turn down the volume of car stereo systems, pull off the roadway if you have to use mobile devices, do not read, watch television or eat while driving, avoid multitasking, and keep conversations with other passengers to a minimum. Whether you walk, ride, or drive, avoid potentially fatal distractions.
The Microcredit Act seeks to protect citizens while it regulates operators within the microloans sector. Listen closely as Minister Floyd Green tells us more.
The Microcredit Act was tabled in Parliament by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke in February. It is intended to regulate microcredit service providers by ensuring they're licensed by the designated regulatory authority. It also requires microcredit service providers to keep proper accounting and other records and make timely reports to that authority. State Minister in the Industry and Commerce Ministry, Floyd Green, says the Act undertakes a three-goal approach of effectiveness.
The first goal is to see to the growth of the sector, because we believe to grow any sector, there has to be a system of rules that the players understand that this is how they participate in the sector. And every time you formalize, regulate, put in place rules that everybody has to play by, once it is done in an inclusive fashion, the sectors grow. The other goal of the microcredit bill would be to ensure that our consumers are protected. The reality is that in any relationships of this nature, right across all the services that are provided in finance, there must be an avenue through which government seeks to protect its consumers. And the third goal, I would say, is to ensure that we weed out those in the industry who do not mean well, who are not playing by fair rules. Those are the three goals, and I think all of us are aligned around those goals.
Keep we island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it. Keep we island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it.
No dash no paper, no dash no plastic. Dispose your garbage responsibly. No know how to recycle, learn it quick. And if you drop it, better pick up every piece of it. Plastics last forever, don't forget the bits. Cause when them touch the street, them end up in the sea. Collect pan the reef where they fish them feed. And when you want seafood, I eat your
Keep
eat.
we island clean, so clean. From the peaks to the beach, so clean. No dirty up Jamaica, please don't do it. No dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica, no dirty up Jamaica.
Farming isn't just about planting a seed and watering it. It involves much more considerations like finding the right area with the right soil type for certain crops, ensuring you have water and a market for your produce to avoid a glut. Check this out.
To provide jobs for persons, it lets me feel like, I'm really contributing to the economy of the country. It's just a good feeling. And to produce the quality products, to compete with the international market and to produce goods that actually look much better than imported goods, it's a good feeling for me.
Agro Investment Corporation continues to scout for lands in Jamaica that are best suited for agricultural production through the National Land Agency and the Commission of Lands, and also with private enterprises. So wherever there is unused government lands or private lands, Agro Investment Corporation will profile these lands.
So by now, we should all be aware of the benefits of leasing lands from the government. But once you've leased the land, how do you maximize returns? Well, knowing the soil type is important. For instance, did you know that over in the Ebony Park Spring Plain Agro Park, the soil type impacts the kinds of crops that can be planted there?
Ebony Park Agro Park is about 1,100 acres, and likewise the Spring Plain, and that's roughly all the lands within there. There are areas of non-arable areas, but there are arable areas. Arable areas amount on the Ebony Park side to about 800 acres. There's a lot of different soil types, predominantly Bonegate, clay loam. Basically anything can grow here. Once it requires a pH of about 6.5 to about 7. There are pockets where the pH might fall to about 5.5, 5.8. So if there's a crop that needs to be having a lower pH, soil could be amended to facilitate that. But basically anything will grow.
So let's revisit our checklist. We've applied and submitted all the necessary documentations, including proof of our capacity to invest in the land. We've learned about soil types and pH balances in the soil. What's next after you've been approved?
They would assign you a plot number, or they'd give you a designated area to where you'd be assigned. I guess you'd view it to see maybe what you'd need to do. If it needs a bit of clearing, you might want to look at that, how you go about doing that. You'll be advised as to the best way to get that done. You might want to go to the NIC because our water is pressurized, and so the NIC supplies it. So a part of your contract would give you the ability to go to NIC with tenure of land, and then they would then come and put your meter on so that you get ready supply for water. We also offer tractor services to plow, harrow, farrow, and other activities that you might want, rotovate and so on, for your lands. So you'll be able to do that. Once you do that, we could tell you of maybe different cycles, crop cycles, where you might want to plant, best time for certain crop. You might be able to go out of these seasons, but at least we'll be able to tell you that this crop does well in a particular season. The risk might be higher in another season, but so might be the returns. So you could get advice as to that. So local advice will be there ready for you.
Meet Henry Givens, a youth farmer who is a beneficiary of this initiative. He started out acquiring just 5 acres of land, and today he is up to 15. Givens plants various crops at different stages, including Scotch bonnet pepper, sweet potato, and Moruga red watermelons, as well as slicing and plummy tomatoes.
Leasing land from the government, it is actually beneficial, and at the point where I would actually
want to lease more if available. You know, I am not employed otherwise, so it allows me to take care of my 2 babies, and it allows me to eat and, you know, survive. So it is something very beneficial, I would say. Life here at Ebony Park, it's twofold. You know, it's good sometimes and sometimes it's challenging. One, you know, persons around, some persons, they know what to do with their crops, for example, and they don't want to do it. So sometimes, you know, we have a lot of pest and disease outbreak, and some persons just don't want to invest the funds or do what is right to actually, you know, make the agro park much better and a much cleaner environment. And then, you know, also, sometimes there's a major issue with the whole irrigation system. It costs a lot sometimes, because even if you look into the pepper field, you know, sun scalding is a result of a lack of water supply sometimes. But, you know, it's a blessing, you know, and, you know, there is not only negative, because, you know, once you have irrigation, then, you know, without the irrigation, I couldn't do anything like this, none at all.
Farming can be an expensive venture, but it's also beneficial. As a youth farmer, the challenges may not even be financial.
Some older persons, because they're so, well, relatively young, they don't want to work with you because they said they don't want to work with a younger person. However, you know, sometimes it's good to know that, you know, for some persons that really can't afford to go into the farming as deep, that you can provide them with not only a job, but you can also assist them with technical, you know, technical advice to improve their smaller production that they do as well. My advice to younger farmers or investors is that they should not be discouraged or swayed from agriculture. It is something that can be beneficial, and, you know, it is a good way to make a good foundation for themselves and their families. So it's something that they should look into and be strong about it. That's the only way we can build our country.
$650 students, $100 million. How are they connected? Through the Hospitality and Tourism Management Program offered at 32 high schools across the island. It's a 2-year program to equip future tourism workers with the requisite skills to meet the demands of the growing global industry. Graduates will be certified by the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute and received an associate degree from a local college. We're building a resilient tourism industry through human capital development.
If you no want pop down and fenke, you fi burn mosquito and run with dengue. So no make water cycle in open container. For them we read up under the danger. Usher them out, run them away. Slap them with the zapper and down them with spray. Use mosquito net and mosquito screen. Protect your household, now make them come in. If you no want pop down and fenke, you fi burn mosquito and run with dengue. If pain lick your head and your joints and your eye, and you want fever vomit and your temperature high, it could be dengue, don't hesitate. See a doctor, don't self-medicate. For some painkiller can make you bleed, and you will try to recover and no succeed. We no want pop down and fenke. We fi burn mosquito and run with dengue.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
Thanks for watching another edition of Jamaica Magazine. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll do this all over again. Until then, send your feedback on today's show to jamaicamagazine@gis.gov.jm. Also follow us on our social media pages, gis.gov.jm, or subscribing to our YouTube channel. You may also find us on all the major social media platforms. On behalf of the entire production team here at the GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
Humberto swipes Bermuda without catastrophic damage.
SEDEMA expresses appreciation for support to the relief efforts in the Bahamas.
And the CARICOM Secretariat wraps up 2 weeks of wellness activities. Welcome to the CARICOM News Time for the week ending Friday, 20th September 2019. I am Tusankeen English Francis.
And I am Michelle Nurse. Thanks for joining us.
Strong winds swept across Bermuda as Category 3 Hurricane Humberto swiped the island Wednesday night. 120 miles per hour winds left 80% of the island without power. The government said there were 17 minor incidents, including gas leaks, 9 medical incidents, and 3 structural fires that were not serious. Bermuda rarely sees storms as big and powerful as Humberto. Only 22 hurricanes have passed within 100 miles of the island paradise over the past century. Hurricane Gonzalo in 2014 was the last to make landfall there. By the end of the week, attention turned to Tropical Storm Jerry, which was expected to pass near the Leeward Islands.
The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, has expressed profound gratitude to the donors who have contributed to the humanitarian relief effort in the Bahamas. SEDEMA said operations of international and regional partners have been streamlined with existing emergency support groups of the Bahamas National Emergency Operations Center. SEDEMA has assisted the center in the re-establishment of an emergency operations center in Abaco and with the drafting of a conceptual framework for recovery planning for the Bahamas. The framework was presented to the Prime Minister of the Bahamas and his cabinet. SEDEMA is also assisting the Bahamas with a detailed assessment of damaged sectors, including agriculture, health, education, tourism, housing, as well as with debris and waste management. Other CARICOM institutions, including CARDI and the CARICOM Impacts, are involved in the aid response. You can read SEDEMA's updated reports on the situation in the Bahamas at sedema.org. The report has details of all the regional and international agencies involved in the disaster emergency response and management in the Bahamas.
Guyana welcomed the first set of hurricane victims from the Bahamas Sunday last. Several ministers of government were present at the Cheddi Jagan International Airport to welcome home a family of 5 who were displaced after Hurricane Dorian ripped through parts of the Bahamas.
The chair of the Guyana Elections Commission, retired Justice Claudette Singh, has advised President David Granger that the commission will be ready to conduct credible general and regional elections by the end of February next year. Justice Singh advised President Granger of the commission's time frame on Thursday, the 19th of September. President Granger said that his cabinet will discuss the time frame for the elections.
I have received a letter from the Election Commission chairman, and I should be meeting my cabinet in a few minutes' time to discuss that letter. I am confident that the commission and the chairman, in our deliberate judgment, will give me advice which will ensure credible elections based on a credible basis. That's what I'm working towards.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres wants a whole-of-society approach to compel governments to urgently address climate change. The UN Secretary General headed into the UN Climate Action Summit on the 23rd of September with the view that without financial support, the impact of climate change on the developing world can be absolutely devastating. The UNSG visited the Bahamas earlier in September and witnessed the devastation in the affected islands. He made an impassioned plea for the international community to urgently address climate change.
CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque anticipates that diplomatic political cooperation between the community and India will deepen when the two sides meet in New York for the first CARICOM India Summit. Heads of government of CARICOM will have discussions with the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, on Wednesday, the 25th of September, on the sidelines of the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly. The new ambassador of India to CARICOM, Dr. K.J. Srinivasa, is optimistic that this high-level engagement will pave the way for enhanced bilateral relations, particularly in the area of trade. He said during the period April 2018 to March 2019, India's trade with CARICOM was pegged at $674.32 million. Dr. Srinivasa said immense opportunities exist for CARICOM and India to further enhance bilateral trade in areas such as agriculture and food security, health and pharmaceuticals, small and medium enterprises, marine development and oceanography, and disaster management. CARICOM heads of government will address the opening session of the United Nations General Assembly. CARICOM representatives, including the Secretary General and Assistant Secretary General for Foreign and Community Relations, will also participate in several fora, including the United Nations General Assembly High-Level Dialogue on Financing for Development, the High-Level Meeting to review progress made in addressing priorities of small island developing states, and the UN High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development.
The creation of wealth through agriculture will be in focus at the 12th Regional Planners Forum on Agriculture, slated for Belize City, Belize, later this month. Under the theme Capitalizing on the New Frontier in Global Agriculture, the week of activities will begin on the 30th of September and end on the 4th of October. A special meeting of the Council for Trade and Economic Development, COTED, and interagency discussions among the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, CRFM, the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, and the Caribbean Agricultural Health and Food Safety Agency, CAFSA, will be the high points of the week. It is anticipated that robust discussions will be held on ICT and agriculture, cannabis and agriculture, the regional sugar industry, and climate change and agriculture. Emphasis will also be placed on women and youth in agriculture as well as the blue economy. The CARICOM Secretariat is organizing the event with the support from the government of Belize and other partners, including the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, the Caribbean Development Bank, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the Technical Center for Agricultural and Rural Cooperation.
CARICOM has acknowledged the significant progress St. Kitts and Nevis has made as the member state marked its 36th anniversary of independence on Friday. In a congratulatory message to the Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris of St. Kitts and Nevis, CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque said the country is justified in celebrating its achievement with pride. Secretary General LaRocque acknowledged the unwavering commitment and leadership of Prime Minister Harris during the first 6 months of this year at a challenging time for the community. He said the community looks forward to St. Kitts and Nevis's continued leadership in advancing issues related to human resource development, health, and HIV in its portfolio in the quasi-cabinet of CARICOM.
The CARICOM Secretariat joined the rest of the region in 2 weeks of wellness activities, culminating with a sports and family day on Saturday, the 21st of September. The activities highlighted friendly and sometimes very serious competition among 4 houses named after the founding fathers of CARICOM: Barrow, Manley, Burnham, and Williams. There was a whole-of-body approach in the activities planned for the competitions. Games such as Scrabble and Dominoes were organized to determine cognitive wellness, while football, cricket, table tennis, as well as road tennis were played to test physical wellness. Guyana's Ministry of Health facilitated health screenings for blood sugar, blood pressure, cervical and breast cancers. A doctor was on hand for medical consultations and prescriptions, for which there was a pharmacist to dispense medication. Staff benefited from several discussions facilitated by medical experts on mental health, diet and exercise, chronic disease control, including the role of screening and treatment compliance. Services were available to conduct dental and vision screening, as well as breast examinations. Several members of staff donated blood to the National Blood Bank. For more stories, you can visit the CARICOM news site at today.caricom.org or the CARICOM website at caricom.org.
Like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next time.
Evelyn Harris is a maroon healer in Jamaica. She has spent decades making a living from her knowledge of Jamaican plants and their healing properties. The products she makes from these plants are in constant demand, and she's happy to be able to help others. She is symbolic of many persons in the Caribbean whose traditional knowledge is a rich and often unacknowledged resource.
You have to be curious to learn about herbs. This is dog's blood, and this one is good for infection or black tube. And this one is piaba, and the piaba is what good for women who's going through menopause.
She, like many others in the region, can share stories of how her knowledge has contributed to research without being properly credited or compensated. But all that will change as more Caribbean countries are getting on board with a Nagoya Protocol that will protect knowledge held by persons like Evelyn and will serve to preserve the natural resources she depends on. The Nagoya Protocol is an international agreement that focuses on the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits from the sustainable use of genetic resources. It is an agreement that researchers and prospective business developers that use the Caribbean's natural resources need to be aware of.
The Caribbean region has an abundant variety of marine and terrestrial biodiversity, including a high number of endemic species of flora and fauna. This richness is combined with a mix of cultures and traditional knowledge. Also, it is clear that Caribbean countries recognize the importance of their unique genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge, and at the same time know that sharing the benefits of the utilization of these resources can be a way to protect the rich natural resources and bring prosperity to Caribbean people.
The International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, in partnership with the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, and the Global Environment Facility, GEF, is working with regional governments, research institutions, and other partners in the Caribbean to support countries to promote the sustainable use of the region's resources.
The needs are envisioned at 3 levels. One is at local levels, working with local communities and indigenous groups. The second level is the national level, working mainly with government and key line agencies that are going to be somehow responsible to implement the protocol, that have competencies according to the national law and the international legislation. And the third level is the regional level, working with CARICOM, for example, with OECS, other regional bodies like tourism organizations or other pertinent bodies that has responsibilities as well in the provision of the Nagoya Protocol.
Regulations will also be established for prior informed consent to access resources and the negotiation of mutually agreed terms to maximize the benefits of the protocol.
The Nagoya Protocol specifically deals with the issue of access to genetic resources and the sharing of the benefits that are gained from those resources. Now, if you think about the issue of sustainable development, if you think about the issue of natural resource management, it is necessary for these countries, who in most cases are small island developing states or developing countries, they need resources to be able to protect these natural resources that we have, these genetic resources. And so any avenue that is going to assist with making sure that some of these benefits come back in order to sustainably use these resources is something that the IUCN is always interested in providing.
The Bahamas, for example, is a hotspot for access to genetic resources for research and development. But only in one case of successful commercialization has benefit sharing with a country on the basis of an ABS contract took place.
There is a soft coral, which is a wavy coral. It's harvested annually in the Bahamas, and an extract from that was the first source of chemicals which are used today in skin revitalizing anti-aging creams. One of the researchers from the University of California came to the Bahamas and discovered a class of compounds which have anti-inflammatory properties. Later on, over 100 products in the world have been developed from the extracts from this coral.
For practitioners such as Dr. Sylvia Mitchell, the protocol will change the way how local communities and indigenous people like the Amerindians, Maroons, and Rastafarians operate.
The indigenous and local communities have to be part of the process. A very important part that the Nagoya Protocol recognizes in this whole value chain is that there are local indigenous communities all over the biodiversity-rich areas that have, over many, many generations, developed recipes. And when you develop products in the end, many, many years later, creams, anti-cancer, whatever, many times that traditional knowledge has been taken into account, but it doesn't filter back to those local communities.
Several Caribbean countries have already started putting in the framework to benefit from the implementation of the Nagoya Protocol. In Guyana, certain key steps have been taken.
Guyana already had a system in place with regards to granting access to its genetic resources. And that system is basically done through the Environmental Protection Agency. We're the agency responsible for granting all access to persons coming into the country to do research. If persons want to enter a specific community to access a specific resource, they have to get the consent of that community. When that consent is received, what they do is they have to submit that to, we have Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. And they would usually issue official permission saying the community has no objection with this person coming in to do such and such. When we have that, then we would issue our permit.
For Antigua and Barbuda, much has already been done, as these islands are in the process of depositing their ratification instrument.
This project will allow us to develop our regulations, to develop our policy, to set up our institutional infrastructure to now manage the issues. We don't know when any genetic materials and the associated traditional knowledge are being taken out of the country. We're not aware. It's only those people who will inform certain agencies or certain government agencies that they're taking them out. That only happens occasionally. But in instituting this Nagoya Protocol, in instituting our ABS regulations and policy, we'll be able to finally have a system to regulate this process.
The Nagoya Protocol is helping to preserve traditional knowledge that could be lost as elders die.
Over a period of time, people will come there, people have their complaints, people want to be treated for some ailments or whatever, and people just come to folks who do what they have to do for them, but not necessarily telling them, you know, what is it I have done for you. Okay, if you come, you have a problem with your belly or your back or your shoulder or whatever, you will get the treatment for it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna know all the ingredients and stuff that goes into it. And even sometimes if people would probably show to you, you might see an ingredient or two that they use, but it would be probably the least important of the ingredient that you would have seen.
As the Caribbean embraces new opportunities to benefit from our biological resources, we look to the future.
I represent 11 parishes across the island which have a membership about 5,000. These are traditional farmers who have been growing marijuana illegally for years. Now that we are on the way to have a formal industry, we are working hard to allow standards to fit their needs as grassroots people while working with governments and agencies across the world.
The Nagoya Protocol is opening doors for Caribbean people.
Violence against women is a violation of human rights. Its impact ranges from immediate to long-term physical, mental, and sexual consequences, sometimes resulting in death. It negatively impacts women's general well-being and can prevent us from fully participating in society. Be a better human being. No more violence against women. No more.
I wanted to be an educator because I believe that education is the most powerful weapon that can change the world.
My dreams and aspiration is to one day become an entrepreneur where I can employ other persons and help to build the country.
I wanted to go into development. I wanted to help people become better versions of themselves. Growing up, I saw a lot of violence, I saw a lot of crime, I saw a lot of poverty. The challenges are so many. The first one that comes to mind is the level of youth unemployment that's here.
Challenges that exist here in West Prospect Bogwalk are lack of awareness for educational opportunities or job opportunities.
Not many got the chance to do CXC or graduate from the secondary level. So that's a major setback for the people living in the community.
A way to alleviate this issue is training programs.
They need more opportunities, like to go back to school to get themselves a certificate so they can be able to work and create employment for themselves and their family.
push more entrepreneurship opportunity, encourage these youths to be creative and innovative in what they do, give them startup capital to start their business, invest more in the youth skills and talents.
The Poverty Reduction Program is funded by the European Union, and it really is a program that focuses on the most vulnerable type of communities, making communities safer, making citizens more healthy, better access to education.
For European Union, investing in youth is an obvious choice. They are the future of the country. If we prepare them well, they will bring the change that Jamaica needs. That's why we invest in scholarships, internship, training in life skills and mentorship.
I received a tertiary scholarship from PRP to attend the University of Technology, Jamaica. It meant a lot to me because I realized that somebody else believed in me and somebody saw the potential that I have and somebody believed that I could actually achieve my goal.
I benefited by getting firstly an internship, and also they assisted my bachelor's degree financially. But critically, outside of the finances, the persons that were on the project, you know, the motivation that they provided, etc., it really provided a huge boost.
This is my third year at the MICO. This scholarship, it helped me to be able to focus only on my education here, because tertiary education is not cheap.
I was placed at ODPEM on the one-year internship program. It was really good. It was an opportunity for me to prove myself, to give myself a service, and also to gain experience in the working world, and to also provide for my family.
I plan to be an agent of change in my community by being a mentor, a leader, and a godfather for the youths growing up. Try to help them teach them a trade.
You don't have to be rich to help. You don't have to achieve greatness to start. I contributed to my basic school by providing them with the necessary resources that they need, that I believe that in the long run, it will have a ripple effect on many, many persons.
Professionally, I manage the whole program, which is aimed at giving young persons the opportunity to, you know, do what I did, basically, to get their foot inside an organization. Additionally, I also have a little small business that I try to employ young persons to learn a skill, etc.
When you're persistent in life, when you're determined, when you're hungry for success, then you'll be able to accomplish and achieve anything that you want.
It has changed hundreds and hundreds of lives. Not just my life, my family lives, my friends' lives, etc. I want to just urge everyone looking on to continue these social programs. These are the solutions to the many ills that we face as a society and as a country and even as a world. So thank you, and I challenge you, continue it. It's needed.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious.
Serious.
Serious about business.
Explore, engage, elevate. The Jamaica Stock Exchange is showcasing its online program here at its eCampus Open House and Corporate Mingle. Hi, I'm Javon Keys, and Business Access TV is here to bring you all the happenings. Stay tuned. The first segment of our program is the Open House, where the Jamaica Stock Exchange will be introducing its postgraduate certification programs offered through its eCampus. Mrs. Marlene Street Forrest will bring greetings.
I want to thank you for coming this evening to the JC eCampus's Open House. And, you know, when I was thinking about what I would say to you this evening, I said, you know, the fact that you come and, you know, it's immediately after August, which is the break, and I know you have a lot to do at the office, and also with the back to school. I am very pleased to see you all. You know, you have given us this evening pleasure in coming here. The intention this evening is to introduce to you the JC's exciting eCampus and the programs that we currently offer. And I'm smiling because I remember in 2012, at our launch, we said, and the program that we currently offer. And I am just excited about the fact that now we can say the programs, right, Dr. Lawrence, that we currently offer. And we feel that it is appropriate to share with you not only the number of programs we offer, but the level of certification that bolster our offerings. Because it is one thing to offer programs upon programs, but how does it enhance what you do? What can you do after you say, I've completed that program? There must be something to bolster it. And these include the accreditation by the University Council of Jamaica of our flagship program, the Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Services Management, our Continuing Professional Development Certification, which provides the stamp of approval from the CPD Certification Services in London that all our programs conform to continuing professional development principles, and also the approval from the Financial Services Commission of our online securities courses. The eCampus objectives are designed to match the objectives of the participants to our courses, which are to increase in the knowledge base of persons within the financial industry and the general marketplace. So we want to ensure that you know that while we operate within the financial industry, financial matters affect all companies. Am I correct, Dr. Lawrence? All companies. So it is a broad scope we are talking about. The ability also to practically utilize the training at the workplace and in the participants' daily life, and see to convert the training into a tangible currency. That is upward mobility in the organization. As the best performing exchange in the world, and you know, I would have to say that, right? For 2015, 2018, and we are second at this point to date in terms of what Bloomberg has said. But 2 weeks ago, we were number one. So we are watching this to see what will happen. And I want you to watch it with me so that we know where we are for the end of the year. But it is no secret that we have a very clear vision on what the standard in training in the financial services sector and its employees should be. So you would be coming to the right place. We understand that daily the rules of the game changes in the financial sector, as well as other sectors of commerce. And the risk in the market are greater now due to new and sophisticated products. You know, we're looking at bitcoins, and we are looking at other asset class, we would say. And, you know, as a result of that, the Jamaica Stock Exchange will be there to guide the market through these various sophisticated products. So, you know, there can be only one place to look. Our programs take these variables of this sophistication and all of that global changes in mind. And so there are several hundred persons working in the financial sector that will benefit from getting on board. We're hoping today to shed more light on the programs we offer, the matter of admission, the persons are here, or flexible payment plan, and the importance of the campus in general, and why we wish to engage you in having the campus as central to your thought. Whether as an individual or as a company or as HR, the campus must be central to your thoughts. Again, welcome.
On behalf of the JC Group and the eCampus, I would like to extend to you all a warm welcome and thanks for taking your time to be a part of this very informative event. I'm very pleased to be a part of the technical group which handles all technical matters relating to the eCampus. Our main objectives and goals and responsibilities are to provide training for our faculty members and our staff, as well as the eCampus administrative unit and our other stakeholders, such as our students and the general public at large. I will be demoing our relevant technologies that we use in our day-to-day operations, as well as I'll be, giving you some brief system requirements of the systems that we use. Our website is based on Moodle, which is basically the benchmark for all universities and tertiary institutions worldwide. Basically, every tertiary institution uses Moodle to develop their website in order to provide that hub, that platform, that community, which all our facilitators, our participants, technical administrators, and the administrative staff of the eCampus can interact.
eCampus was designed to engage the learner. I will briefly introduce you to some of its features and activities, beginning with the homepage. There is always something happening on eCampus and in the financial world, and eCampus Happenings is where you get the latest headlines. To your right, you will see a message notification box that shows messages sent to you from other students, your teachers, or administration. You will also notice a calendar that shows events for the current month. We'll talk more about calendar later. Let's move into one of my courses. To your left and to your right, you will notice several boxes that show you the latest news, all the course activities, upcoming course events, and others. You will notice that the course has an introduction. This section gives you all the information you need to know on the course. This section will also be updated to provide you with the latest information of most importance to the course material. You will also notice that the course has a general chat room and a general forum, two great ways of communicating with your peers. The forum lets you view topics created by teachers and other students. You can also create your own topics and comment on open ones. This is a great way to post general questions to your class members. The chat room allows you to have live chat sessions with class members who are currently online. Your teacher may sometimes use this as an open session to answer general queries. Let's now look at assignments. Assignments are given with clear instructions and may sometimes require you to submit a file. A file can be in PDF, Word, Excel. It all depends on what the teacher instructs you to do. And for the real deal, the course content. Content is delivered in video and audio. It lets you pause, skip, go back, and continue from wherever you left off the last time. The beauty about this experience is, if you didn't get the lecture the first time around, you can always go back and watch it again for as long as it's available. And let's look at the quiz. You get instant feedback as you answer each question, and your grade is known immediately at the end of each quiz. Didn't do so well? Don't worry. You get 3 attempts, but keep this in mind. The final grade will be the average of all 3 attempts. This is an online course, but you still get to see and talk with your lecturer. Each course has at least one web meeting session with your lecturer. In this session, the lecturer can share his screen with you as you work through a problem. He may also give you the floor so that you may be seen as you speak to the rest of the class. This is all for now. Thank you and enjoy your eCampus learning experience.
The next video I'll be presenting is our web platform. We use a technology called Zoom webinars. I'm sure most of us might have been previously exposed or we have heard of Zoom before. It is a very interactive, collaborative tool that's very easy to use.
Expand your reach and build relevance with your target audience using Zoom video webinars. Zoom's flexible registration controls allow you to gather valuable information. Designate your interactive video panelists that can present and screen share with up to 10,000 attendees and to an unlimited audience with Facebook Live or YouTube streaming. The host can promote any viewer to an interactive panelist at any time. Live Q&A and chat allow you and your panelists to answer attendee questions on the fly. Registration, Q&A, and polling are all linked to detailed reporting. Zoom's powerful integrations help you get more out of your webinars. Monetize your content with our PayPal integration and simplify follow-up with our CRM integrations. Let your webinar live on after the live event by enabling our on-demand feature, allowing you to capture new registrants long after the webinar's end. Webinars are perfect for town hall meetings, large-scale trainings, product announcements, marketing lead generation, and more. Reach a broader audience and grow your impact with Zoom video webinars.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV. Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but 4 walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
I never thought I'd hear the day when blackberries are archaic. It just goes to show that we have to keep up with the times, you know, and the product that the JSC eCampus has, this online professional development platform, is keeping up with the times. People want what they want, when they want it on time, and they want it delivered in a convenient manner. Gone are the days when you're going to be expecting people to come after you have completed or you're in your workspace to come to a 2-year, you know, you don't have the time, and no workplace can manage anything like that. So I'm here to give you an overview of what I term a marquee product of the eCampus. The product I want to give you an overview of, and I won't be very long, is called a Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Services Management. Long acronym there. The Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Services Management is an occupational graduate program. It is higher than a bachelor's degree and everything else, associates, so on. It is a graduate program. So it is a postgraduate qualification, and it is an occupational qualification. You'll hear a little bit more in a couple of slides what I mean, or the distinction between occupational versus academic. It offers industry participants opportunities for critical exploration of the regulatory framework, governance issues, financial products, and services in an academic climate of high intellectual rigor. And a part of why this program was developed was because of a recognition that someone may come to the financial sector with an MBA or a bachelor's degree from a recognized institution abroad. But the actual workings, the mechanism of how the financial sector works locally is not treated. And so there was a need for persons to get up to speed to be able to deliver products and services in a much more efficient way. And hence the concept here. But I must also say before I move to the next slide that the concept was a visionary one from Mrs. Merlin Street Forest. I mean, I'm sure she's accustomed to that term being associated with her name now. Matter of fact, you can probably say Merlin Visionary Forest. Because it was out of her idea, really, that this need was being filled. It is 15 months in length. And this, by the way, compares very well with similar occupational postgraduate degrees in the world. Now, what is a professional degree? Remember I said I'd tell you what the distinction between a professional and an academic degree. And I put it in bold there, partly. Well, first of all, let's go from the first bullet. It helps students to prepare for careers in their specific fields. So you have professional degrees in law, in pharmacy, in medicine, education. The length of the programs can vary, but span anywhere from 1 to 5 years. So 15 months is pretty optimal, as you can see. But important there, professional degrees are designed to directly prepare students for a particular career, hence the term professional or occupational degree. All right? And I just gave a list of a couple of them that exist. And part of the reason why I use Juris Doctor and Doctor of Medicine is because all of a sudden when you hear about doctorates in these areas, you see prestige. So I'm making you understand that the postgraduate diploma in financial services management has pedigree. Now, what is an academic degree? An academic degree, the emphasis typically is about research. And I like to break it down for my students when they first enter in a class that I teach about research. Research is really about learning first. And it is that you are the lead learner in the field. And you're creating new knowledge. It's not about working with what you have. It's about creating new knowledge. And typically it's very heady and academic and published in journals and so on. So there's a clear distinction between an occupational or professional degree as opposed to an academic degree. So I looked at 5 reputable institutions in the Commonwealth. I chose the Commonwealth. The United States of America tends to have all kind of variants, but I wanted a system that we could compare to ours. So I looked at the UK and Canada, and I'm sure you recognize some of these institutions here. There's the Seneca College of Applied Arts and Technology in Canada, Oxford University, the #1 university in the world, bar none, University of Salford, Manchester, London School of Business and Finance, and the famous London School of Economics, and Douglas College. Douglas College is Canada, Seneca College, Canada, the rest obviously in the UK. They have those products there. And you can see the terms are very, very similar to the one that we have. The overall offerings are also very similar, okay? And look at the costing. You can't beat what we sell here. The role and function of the Jamaica Stock Exchange is very similar to the role and function of the UCJ, University Council of Jamaica. What both institutions have in common is that they tell potential stakeholders that you can trust this organization. So you are listed on the stock exchange, these people can be trusted. They won't be fly by night and take your money and disappear. And you know what I mean. The UCJ is telling us the same thing. In essentially, in an educational organization, you don't want to go and invest your time or your money in a fly-by-night organization. There's much more to it. But I'm saying to you, what UCJ says, you can trust this product. Now, it's important to note that whereas for the diploma, the postgraduate diploma, you need to do 14 courses. You may take any one course by itself. So you can decide, oh, you know, I want to know a little bit more about risk management. There's a course for that. I want to know about corporate governance. There's a course. So say I want to just do a course by itself, you can do that, as opposed to taking on all 14. There's no comparable program available at any of these institutions to compare with the $250,000 or so that it is being offered for here in Jamaica at the eCampus. Now, I did the benchmarking of the product itself, but I want to put also the context of the eCampus in this one slide. This is the London Stock Exchange, and I'm sure Mrs. Forrest knows, and those of us that have had the opportunity to take a look at the landscape, that London Stock Exchange has what they call an academy. They do not leave professional development of the financial sector up to chance. And what they use is the term bespoke. They are prepared to create bespoke professional development training opportunities for anybody, anywhere in the world. So if you want a course in Jamaica, they can make it for you, but we don't want you to do that. That is our site, and you can see down the bottom there new and exciting upcoming workshops. That's the bespoke side of the eCampus. Entry requirements are listed here. And by the way, the third requirement there, speaking about mature postgraduate diploma applicants. In other words, we're looking at industry experience. This isn't a willy-nilly thing. It is a part of how educational institutions have evolved, a part of how we now matriculate persons. Think of somebody who is a virtuoso at the guitar. They have never read a note in their life, but they can play it better than, drop something they can do. We say, okay, we won't invalidate that you can't read notes. Come and handle whatever action or activity in terms of playing a song or playing what you have done. And we can evaluate that and determine for what amount of credits or how that can be used to matriculate you into the system. So you may have entered the financial sector without necessarily, many people have soared to the top without beginning initially with any formal training. So we're not invalidating that. That's a reality. That's the way of the world. That's how every institution now operates. So that's what that mature applicants pertains to. So we say we will take industry experience as well as part of what can be used to matriculate you into the program. But first degree, JSC Securities course, or any other FSC-approved first-level course, at least 3 years relevant experience within the financial services sector or a related field. So what we're saying is that this program is for you. Wherever you sit, this program is for you. If you're serious about advancement in your career. I don't know how many have recognized this gentleman. He was the former head of HEART NTA. And now that's a national body, and now he's the head of the Caribbean Examinations Council, CSEC. So he has moved from head of a national organization to now the head of a regional organization. He has a PhD in industrial engineering. He said this. He came and did the program. And at the graduating ceremony, he described it as by far one of my most consequential studies when he came and did the program here. And as a part of what this program is about, ultimately the persons that leave are the brand ambassadors. And he was so pleased that he was prepared to say this about not comparing his industrial engineering degree from University in Florida and the list of other qualifications he had. He felt that this was one of his most, because it helped him, according to him, when we spoke to him, to function in his role as the CEO of his organization. Because he said he would sit down sometimes in meetings prior to this and hear about them talking about the budget, and he couldn't understand what was going on. But subsequent to the program, he was able now to plot the institution's financial development, which is quite a big deal for us. So we're very proud of him, one of our graduates. Dr. Wayne Wesley. So I call it a marquee product. As a scientist, I try not to use words idly. I'm very serious about it.
When we return, you'll hear from our guest speaker. Who is it? You'll find out when we come back. Stay with us.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Every day you wake up, you have another opportunity to make this little island better, safer, a place where we all can be proud to call home. It's time we all recognize that every little thing we do has an impact on the Jamaica we live in now and the country we're leaving for our children. So promise me this, promise yourself this. No more will we tolerate criminals, even if it's our relatives. Tell them they're doing something wrong. Tell them to stop. Tell them no more robbing our children of the Jamaica they deserve. Tell them no more crime.
Tonight's speaker, she said I shouldn't call her a guest speaker. So tonight's speaker is a friend of the eCampus. Not only is she known for her 25+ years experience in the field of risk and compliance, she is also a known attorney at law, a senior manager, and company secretary at KPMG. She is known for her down-to-earth, bubbly, and refreshing personality. However, tonight, she's not here in her capacity as senior manager. She is here to speak to us about the postgraduate certificate in Chartered Secretary and the ICAC course that the eCampus offers. Our speaker is the head of the Jamaica branch of the ICSA and will be sharing with us the benefits of enrolling in a course such as this. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mrs. Elizabeth Henry Pottinger.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here because I believe that the ICSA qualification is one of the ones that the JSE campus has snagged, and I am sure that at the end of this presentation this evening, many persons will be signing up to become qualified as a chartered secretary. This qualification is over 100 years old. It's headquartered in England, and many Jamaican persons used to travel all the way to England or self-study to learn to be a qualified company secretary. But now, the ICSA is being brought right here on your eCampus, right at your fingertips, as I heard someone said earlier this evening. I have my colleague, Jean Douglas, who is a chartered secretary as well, and she has been practicing a few years before me, and she knows the in and outs of being a chartered secretary. So why qualify with the ICSA? I like to say that it brings you right into the boardroom, and it brings you to the seat of decision making. And this is where the skills are mainly practiced, but it is multidisciplinary. You can be an accountant, you can be a company secretary, you can do risk management. Our qualification will help you to build the skills that will equip you for a career in a variety of sectors and organizations. So we offer a standalone qualifications which cover financial services, and this includes investments and fund management, legal and regulatory requirements, which is my focus, understanding of corporate strategy and structures, the skill to support and advise and enable directors and the board to make the right decisions. So you see that it places you right at the seat of decision making. Here we go. So why is this qualification? Why is this, and what are some of the benefits? You get a chartered status, which is the benchmark for company secretaries and governance professionals. It shows you have the knowledge, the skills and experience to take on a job with significant and wide-ranging responsibilities. It gives you access to thought leadership, research, and our highly respected guidance notes. You get free access to our technical helpline, and the qualification is transferable across major countries. So if you're a chartered secretary in Jamaica, you move to England or Australia or Canada, you can use the same qualifications at the same level. You do not lose your ranking. And the membership is transferable to any ICSA division as long as you're a resident in that division. So this is the stepping stone for your qualification. And pay attention to this particular slide, because different persons will fit in at different steps. You have the foundation, the part 1, and the part 2 qualifications. So the foundation program entry, if you hold a degree or a higher national diploma in either law, accounting, business studies, or business management, then you'll be required to sit and pass the foundation level, which is what we just showed you. The foundation level is the one in red, down the bottom there. So part 1 entry, if you hold any of the following qualifications, you may be eligible to start at part 1. So the HND in law or accounting, HND or degree in business studies or business management, ICSA level 5 diploma in offshore finance and admin, level 5 diploma in finance and administration, or an unrelated degree, and have 5 years or more experience in a company secretarial or governance professional role. So the related degree, entry law. These are law graduates holding an approved UK degree in law, and you'll start at part 1 and will be eligible for exemption from the company law module. So if I go back to that presentation, there's a company law. If you have a law degree, you will be exempt from writing the company law section of part 1, but you would skip the foundation level. So if you have a related degree entry in finance, and the graduates holding an approved UK degree in finance will start at part 1 and will be eligible for exemption from the interpretation of financial accounting module. If you have an MBA entry, they will have to review what your MBA was in and give you the relevant exemptions that are applicable. So for the professional entry, law, lawyers with fewer than 5 years professional experience will start at part 1 and will be eligible for an exemption from the company law module. They may, subject to previous knowledge, qualification, and experience, also be eligible for an exemption from the development of strategy mode. You must be a member of the bar, and the Jamaican bar is acceptable to the ICSA qualification. Professional entry in accounting. Accountants with fewer than 5 years professional experience will start at part 1 and will be eligible for an exemption from the interpretation of financial accounting information module. They may, subject to previous knowledge, qualification, or experience, also be eligible for an exemption in the development of strategy mode. The fees, I think it's comparable to what we have heard earlier. The fees, the program says that you have a registration fee of £77. There's a subscription of £135. To be exempted, though, you have to pay £157 per module. And the exam fee is also £157 per module. And there's a study text per module. And note that the annual subscription fee is payable to maintain your student membership. So it means that in order to even do those two papers, the case study and the other paper, you must register as a student of the Institute of Chartered Secretary. The ways to study: tuition provider, which the eCampus is a registered tuition provider, and you will be taken through your paces through the through this eCampus. I don't want to say too much about the other study. You can self-study as well, but I have found that most people who self-study, they have a great difficulty in passing the exam. So I would encourage you to sign up with the eCampus and take advantage of all of the help that you can get. This is a worthwhile qualification, I can tell you. And we have some postgraduate partners, and I think the eCampus, I'm not sure that you're a postgraduate partner as yet, but you are a provider of the services. We have a link that you can find the full list of postgraduate courses and providers. And here are some facts I provided for you. Students must register with both the university and the ICSA prior to completing the course. And your fees vary from that of ICSA, the fees that you pay to the eCampus, and your membership fees are payable directly to the institute. So for the foundation program, which is the red box that we skipped over earlier, there are 4 papers here: Introduction to the Business Environment, Introduction to Finance and Accounting, and I can tell you that that is not really an introductory course. It is much deeper than an introductory course. Principles of Company Compliance and Administration and Introduction to Law. What does it involve? This is the foundation course, 15 to 200 learning hours that develop your understanding of the fundamentals, including Introduction to the Business Environment, Finance, Law, Compliance, and Admin. There's a one closed book 3-hour exam, and it covers all of the 4 modules. It leads to the foundation program certificate at level 4 and the right to continue to study for the qualifying program. So remember that there are 3 levels: the foundation, part 1 and part 2. Some people might be exempted from the foundation in its entirety. Some will be exempted from parts of part 1. Some will be exempted from all of part 1. And some will be exempted from part of the part 2, depending on your years of experience and your qualification.
The presentations may be over, but the event isn't quite done. Now let's go mingle. So, Mrs. Street Forest, the eCampus was launched in 2012 and it's a number of years now. What's the traction been like and what can we expect going forward from this regime introduced by the JSC?
We have been successful in having many students from all different industries partake of the programs that we have. The flagship program, which is the postgraduate diploma in financial services management, and all the other workshops, the attending workshops that talk about products and services within the financial sector and otherwise. Our uptick has been very good. You know, we have had the accreditation from UCJ. We also have approval from the Financial Services Commission and the CPD certification. And these bolster just what people get from the program, hands-on and also qualification to take them to the next level. And you know, we are looking at areas such as blockchain technology, digital asset management, digitization of your organization. These are some things that are critical to the success of organizations, and whatever comes within the environment that will lead to a better and more sustainable financial sector, we are there. So these are the programs that we continue to offer, and anything that evolves, we offer those as well.
So Dr. Benjamin, talk to us about the accreditation for the courses. Now many persons may be concerned, yes, they hear about the courses being offered, but generally a concern is there about accreditation. Are these courses accredited?
Yes, very good question. I want to first of all give us a sense of what accreditation means. In my earlier presentation, I pointed out that at the center of accreditation is a matter of public trust. And persons can think about it as you would think about being listed on the stock exchange, for example. What that means is that possible persons who want to invest know that the money is not going to disappear when they invest it. Academic accreditation is relatively similar. The University Council of Jamaica provides a platform and relevant processes and procedures that when a company or when an institution, when a program has been accredited by the University Council of Jamaica, what they're saying is that potential stakeholders, students who might come on board, financiers, matter of fact, you can't get a student loan if you're not going to be going in an accredited program. So you're saying to the person that, look, this is a program that is trustworthy. It is going to add value. It is the kind of program that will be recognized wherever in the world that you go. And so the JSC campus postgraduate diploma in financial services management is one such accredited program.
And for persons generally who may be interested in, let's say, pursuing this course, how well does it tie in, or how different is it from any other postgraduate degree, let's say, offered by any other institution? Why is it that I should choose doing this program over any other?
Absolutely. No, the program is offered by the Jamaica Stock Exchange eCampus. One of the key mandates of the eCampus from its parent body was to ensure that the providers of financial services in the landscape are well equipped to provide advice, to provide innovative services and products to the market. And in order for this to happen, they have to have a firm understanding of the governance structures of the banking industry, financial services industry, understand international best practices, of course, local best practices, and so on. And we ensure that all our graduates, when they leave the program, through having done the 14 courses, there are about 17 outcomes we have put there. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. But among them are the essentials to be able to advise and to develop and implement products, both financial products, as well as to provide advice to potential clients as to how to invest their own money. Yes.
So you're saying, of course, by all means, it's the best program to choose to do.
It is the best program because it is customized for the Jamaican context. And even if somebody has another degree, they would probably be studying a lot of theories, and it's not that we don't do theory work in the postgraduate diploma in financial services management, but that we are looking at it more as an occupational and an applied degree, so that it is more practical, it's more hands-on, it's more oriented towards being able to respond to the needs of the Jamaican local context.
So, Mr. Parks, the Jamaica Stock Exchange's eCampus has a wide range of courses offered. Tell us a bit about these programs.
Sure. Well, our flagship program is our postgraduate diploma in financial services management. We have a suite of other postgraduate certificates that are offered, including we have the compliance and information governance, we have the financial planning and wealth management, we have the brokerage operations, and many others that are specialized to the different sector. So because we cater to the financial services sector, we have persons who need more enhanced training for security brokers, banking, insurance, and any other entity that offers financial services in general. But we also offer a suite of workshops that are specifically designed to enhance the learning outcomes, to ensure that persons can become a more enhanced desk-ready operant. That is, we highlight gaps that might be there in the marketplace in terms of from an HR perspective, and also persons who are interested in upgrading their skill, because we are CPD certified, which is a continued professional development certification that comes through London, England, and we ensure that everything that we offer are at the highest level to enable all of our participants to be desk-ready operant, or to be a desk-ready operant, and bring an immediacy in terms of the know-how right to their desk for the benefit of the organizations as a whole.
Now, I know your focus is on strengthening persons in the financial sector, but are there any plans to also offer courses for persons who may not necessarily have a degree now, but may be interested in learning about becoming financially savvy and strengthening their wherewithal as it relates to financial education?
Well, sure. We offer the Jamaica Online Securities course, which is a minimum entry-level requirement for persons who require the basic knowledge. So we cater to varying personnel from that perspective. So persons who require to be licensed by the Financial Services Commission. The Jamaica Online Securities course that we offer is the minimum qualification that the FSC would assess in order to license you to give professional advice. We have persons who gravitate to that program, not necessarily because they want to give advice, but they want to have a better understanding in order to navigate the financial markets as a whole, to ensure that their whole financial health can be enhanced.
So you've basically gotten the best of both worlds, a platform where information is shared and another where it's discussed. I'm Javon Keys. I've been your host, and thanks to you for staying tuned to the Jamaica Stock Exchange's eCampus Open House and Corporate Mingle. And thanks to the Jamaica Stock Exchange for having such an event where they're showcasing the offerings of their eCampus. Thanks for staying with us. Pleasant viewing.
Evelyn Harris is a maroon healer in Jamaica. She has spent decades making a living from her knowledge of Jamaican plants and their healing properties. The products she makes from these plants are in constant demand, and she's happy to be able to help others. She is symbolic of many persons in the Caribbean whose traditional knowledge is a rich and often unacknowledged resource.
You have to be curious to learn about herbs. This is dog's blood, and this one is good for infection or black tube. And this one is piaba, and the piaba is what good for women who's going through menopause.
She, like many others in the region, can share stories of how her knowledge has contributed to research without being properly credited or compensated. But all that will change as more Caribbean countries are getting on board with a Nagoya Protocol that will protect knowledge held by persons like Evelyn and will serve to preserve the natural resources she depends on. The Nagoya Protocol is an international agreement that focuses on the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits from the sustainable use of genetic resources. It is an agreement that researchers and prospective business developers that use the Caribbean's natural resources need to be aware of.
The Caribbean region has an abundant variety of marine and terrestrial biodiversity, including a high number of endemic species of flora and fauna. This richness is combined with a mix of cultures and traditional knowledge. Also, it is clear that Caribbean countries recognize the importance of their unique genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge, and at the same time know that sharing the benefits of the utilization of these resources can be a way to protect the rich natural resources and bring prosperity to Caribbean people.
The International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, in partnership with the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, and the Global Environment Facility, GEF, is working with regional governments, research institutions, and other partners in the Caribbean to support countries to promote the sustainable use of the region's resources.
The needs are envisioned at 3 levels. One is at local levels, working with local communities and indigenous groups. The second level is the national level, working mainly with government and key line agencies that are going to be somehow responsible to implement the protocol, that have competencies according to the national law and the international legislation. And the third level is the regional level, working with CARICOM, for example, with OECS, other regional bodies like tourism organizations or other pertinent bodies that has responsibilities as well in the provision of the Nagoya Protocol.
Regulations will also be established for prior informed consent to access resources and the negotiation of mutually agreed terms to maximize the benefits of the protocol.
The Nagoya Protocol specifically deals with the issue of access to genetic resources and the sharing of the benefits that are gained from those resources. Now, if you think about the issue of sustainable development, if you think about the issue of natural resource management, it is necessary for these countries, who in most cases are small island developing states or developing countries, they need resources to be able to protect these natural resources that we have, these genetic resources. And so any avenue that is going to assist with making sure that some of these benefits come back in order to sustainably use these resources is something that the IUCN is always interested in providing.
The Bahamas, for example, is a hotspot for access to genetic resources for research and development. But only in one case of successful commercialization has benefit sharing with a country on the basis of an ABS contract took place.
There is a soft coral, which it's a wavy coral. It's harvested annually in the Bahamas, and an extract from that was the first source of chemicals which are used today in skin revitalizing anti-aging creams. One of the researchers from the University of California came to the Bahamas and discovered a class of compounds which have anti-inflammatory properties. Later on, over 100 products in the world have been developed from the extracts from this coral.
For practitioners such as Dr. Sylvia Mitchell, the protocol will change the way how local communities and indigenous people like the Amerindians, Maroons, and Rastafarians operate.
The indigenous and local communities have to be part of the process. A very important part that the Nagoya Protocol recognizes in this whole value chain is that there are local indigenous communities all over the biodiversity-rich areas that have, over many, many generations, developed recipes. And when you develop products in the end, many, many years later, creams, anti-cancer, whatever, many times that traditional knowledge has been taken into account, but it doesn't filter back to those local communities.
Several Caribbean countries have already started putting in the framework to benefit from the implementation of the Nagoya Protocol. In Guyana, certain key steps have been taken.
Guyana already had a system in place with regards to granting access to its genetic resources. And that system is basically done through the Environmental Protection Agency. We're the agency responsible for granting all access to persons coming into the country to do research. If persons want to enter a specific community to access a specific resource, they have to get the consent of that community. When that consent is received, what they do is they have to submit that to, we have Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. And they would usually issue official permission saying the community has no objection with this person coming in to do such and such. When we have that, then we would issue our permit.
For Antigua and Barbuda, much has already been done, as these islands are in the process of depositing their ratification instrument.
This project will allow us to develop our regulations, to develop our policy, to set up our institutional infrastructure to now manage the issues. We don't know when any genetic materials and the associated traditional knowledge are being taken out of the country. We're not aware. It's only those people who will inform certain agencies or certain government agencies that they're taking them out. That only happens occasionally. But in instituting this Nagoya Protocol, in instituting our ABS regulations and policy, we'll be able to finally have a system to regulate this process.
The Nagoya Protocol is helping to preserve traditional knowledge that could be lost as elders die.
Over a period of time, people will come there, people have their complaints, people want to be treated for some ailments or whatever, and people will just come to folks who do what they have to do for them, but not necessarily telling them, you know, what is it I have done for you. Okay, if you come, you have a problem with your belly or your back or your shoulder or whatever, you will get the treatment for it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna know all the ingredients and stuff that goes into it. And even sometimes if people would probably show to you, you might see an ingredient or two that they use, but it would be probably the least importance of the ingredient that you would have seen.
As the Caribbean embraces new opportunities to benefit from our biological resources, we look to the future.
I represent 11 parishes across the island which have a membership about 5,000. These are traditional farmers who have been growing marijuana illegally for years. Now that we are on the way to have a formal industry, we are working hard to allow standards to fit their needs as grassroots people while working with governments and agencies across the world.
The Nagoya Protocol is opening doors for Caribbean people.
It's season 12 and Wealth Magazine Business Access